So my interview is about to start in 7 minutes, and so it's with a couple UX hiring managers, and definitely nervous. I think the main sensations that I feel are sort of a tightness in my upper chest, and honestly just not clear thinking at the moment. I don't think that the HR interview that I had was really as nerve-wracking as this one, even though technically it shouldn't be, because technically they're just a couple humans, and that's what I keep trying to tell myself, that they're just a couple humans. They have their problems like everyone else. They're not perfect. But I think part of it is I don't really know what to expect. I don't know if this is just a chat or if I'm going to be doing like a portfolio walkthrough. I'm not really sure. So I just figured I'd let you kind of know what was going on in my head. And for me personally, sometimes it's good just to verbalize what's going on, because just doing this now, I actually feel a little bit better. Just kind of, I'll get through this. We're blocked off for 45 minutes, so I don't think it's going to be anything too crazy. I've certainly done a lot of practice interviews, so I think that I'm mostly ready for it, but just standing here like this, I can legit hear or feel my heart beating through my chest. At the end of the day, this doesn't really matter. There's plenty of other jobs. I think what is really appealing about this job is just there's a lot of opportunities for growth. It's a Fortune 100 company, so certainly they have a lot of funding to have a role like this. Obviously, that's not to say that they wouldn't can people. There's certainly a lot of big tech companies that have canned people recently, but I think that there's at least maybe a little bit more growth opportunities and maybe a little bit more safety with a larger company like this. Everything's going to be good. Everything's going to be good. Got 4 minutes. Yeah. My heart is beating really fast. I don't have a heart rate monitor, but it's up there. Can you try? There we go. Now I can hear you well.
Okay. Thanks for taking the time to meet. I know we have about 45 minutes. Okay. Yeah, it was great meeting you. Have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, I hope you do too. Good meeting you both.
Alright, thanks, Josh.
Alright, take care.
Whew. All right. Just finished. Let me get this in focus here. So I just finished let me turn off my mic in case that's still picking up audio. So I just finished my interview with this company that I've been very much wanting to secure a job with. And I will say that I was a little bit unprepared because, well, not really, that's a lie. I was prepared, but I was expecting this to be a back and forth question style interview, all right? And so I came into it sort of with that mindset. And so I came in, and really the first question was to tell me about yourself. And so I did that. And certainly I've practiced that question so many times that that's not even really a problem for me much anymore. But then it was like, okay, talk about a piece of your work. So a portfolio walkthrough, not expecting that. Now I did prepare for it because I did not know what this was going to entail. So I did some portfolio mock interviews with people. And I will say though, it's difficult though, because, there's an extra level of pressure when you are presenting, or when I'm presenting in front of people that are actually making hiring decisions versus people that are just critiquing me on a mock interview. Overall though, I think I did pretty well. One of the main things I try to do is make sure, this is so nitpicky, but just from a communication standpoint, I try to, as best as possible, avoid as much filler words. I used to, especially like in undergrad and high school presentations, say so many times that I have really scolded myself and just tried to make myself not do that. I feel like I did a good job with that. As far as the actual content, I feel like I was able to present my project decently. The only thing is I don't know what they thought. Well, again, that's also a lie. See, this is also the problem, and I know this is going to happen later today, is I always focus on the negatives, always, without fail. And it's a fucking terrible thing to do. But I will say that one of the hiring managers literally said, "Hey, that was a good portfolio walkthrough." Great. So the reason I felt like it could have been better, well, you know what? That's bullshit. There is no reason. It could always be better, right? I could have explained maybe my user flows better. I could have maybe went into a little bit more detail about the high fidelity screens. At the end of the day, when I really think back to how I did with that portfolio walkthrough, I at least gave reasonings for decisions that I made. And I think that is really the most important thing, because anyone can make a design decision, right? You can decide that you want your color palette to be shades of blue. You can decide that you want a sans serif font or whatever, but to be able to articulate the reasons why I'm picking those things, I really tried to make sure that I emphasize those, because I think that those just have a lot more impact than just saying what I did. And so I think I did a pretty good mix of that during this interview. Now, overall, I don't really know how I stand as a candidate. I don't know. There's a question that we're encouraged to ask in our boot camp, which is, are there any apprehensions you have about me as a candidate? I don't know. I didn't end up asking that, mainly because I had other questions that I wanted to ask and we were running out of time. So some of the main questions I asked were what their favorite part of working at this company is. That's just something I always like to ask. And it's sort of a light question that's not too, sometimes if they get, I know for me, if I get questions that are like super heavy handed, super in depth, they're intimidating the answer. So honestly, like, what do you like working about this company is just a good softball way to, get them talking about what they like. The other thing I asked, I asked about what avenues there are for growth and development. And then I asked about how they measure success in the role, which I think is a good question to ask. You want to know, what does it take to actually be a good designer on this team? But I did not ask the question about what apprehensions do you have? Truthfully, I don't know. I don't know if they would say anything on the spot, and we only had 2 minutes left. So for me to be able to defend whatever apprehension that they have in under 2 minutes. I just don't know. I don't know if I would have been able to do that well in the span of time that they had, because I assume that their schedule is pretty locked up, and so I certainly don't want to hold them over the allotted time that we had. So I didn't end up doing that. But part of me was just nervous to ask it too, right? It's sort of a weird question to ask. And I think that's honestly the deeper reason why I didn't ask it, is it's a very vulnerable question to ask. And I don't know. I think my anxiety just kicked in a little bit. And so I did technically want to ask it. I just didn't. Maybe I didn't want to hear the answer, because I felt like the answer was probably, well, Josh, we're a little bit concerned about your lack of experience. Don't know if that would have been the case, but I don't know. It's something I was worried about, so I didn't ask it. But I think overall, if I'm looking at this from a bird's eye view, I actually think I did pretty well, but they gave no indication. So at the end of the call, there was no, hey, you did great, or even you did well, because during the hiring manager, or not the hiring manager, during the HR interview, at the end of it, she said that, oh, we're going to move you on to the next round. But at the end of this interview, there was no indication. I don't know if that's a bad thing. I don't know if maybe that's just normal. I know that they have a lot of people that they're trying to interview probably. And so I imagine that, they can't make any promises that they're going to move me forward if they haven't interviewed everyone at the stage yet. So I don't know. I think overall it went well. I think I was able to articulate things well, and I was able to not be super robotic. That's another thing that I'm trying to also really think about as I'm doing this, is how do I not be robotic? How do I still portray my personality? Still be professional, but you can be professional, but in your own way, right? And so that's really what I was trying to do, like kind of how I'm having this conversation here. It's just, this is my personality. This is what I sound like. These are my mannerisms. And so I think I was able to articulate that well, which is really what I want to have come across, because the last thing is I don't want to feel like some robot designer that has no personality. Because at the end of the day, I keep trying to tell myself that the reason that they're interviewing me is because they found something either in my resume or my portfolio that really resonated with them. And so if I got that far, that's a good sign. So I was told by a mentor that a lot of it is them just looking at your personality. And so I tried to, as best I can in the context of an interview, bring that forward in the best way that I can. But obviously I'll be sure to update you as I go forward. I don't typically make videos this scrappy, but I figured since I literally just finished this interview, 5 minutes ago, I wanted everything to be fresh, and I wanted to just verbalize just sort of my thoughts. All my anxieties are now gone, as opposed to where they were in the beginning. And now it's just waiting and figuring out what happens next. And so I'll be sure to keep you in the loop as I find out more. And until next time, I'll see you in the next video. Take care.